Hello, everybody. Just want to welcome you back to What Would Fats Do? We've got a couple of college games on tap for you here today to get Fats' opinion on. The first game, though, of course, we want to talk about is the most important game of the weekend, Nebraska taking on Louisiana Tech. You guys got to be careful with that game. Matt Rule has not announced a quarterback yet, so please be careful with that game. Fats, I know you want to start with BYU, Kansas. You want to go ahead and start with that game?
Yeah, let me just clarify something on that. That was more of an I instead of a we on discussing the Nebraska game.
Okay, right. I've discussed it. There we go.
Okay, we're gonna just run through a couple games here real quick that have a few differences, but I'm gonna throw you guys in this since it's gonna be a quick one. I'm gonna give you guys a tip as to what I consider to be the 7 top sharpest lines on that you should have on your spank odds, and that's Sports 411, Penny, and Circa. And then there's a place called Sunday Bets, Bet Sheba, Paradise Wager, and Bet War. Those are your 7 sharpest lines on the screen. Now, when I set up my screen on my spank odds, I have those 7 all the way on the left, and then I have the game number and the team names next in the middle, and then on the other side, then I have all the other places that I make most of my bets at. So that's just a recommendation from that's what Fats would do with his Don Best or his spank odds, and how he would arrange the how I have the places arranged on my screen. So anyway, this first game, Kansas BYU game, 343-44. It's good for 20,000 at Sports 411, and they're the ones using 9. It's Circa's 9.5, and they're good for 20,000, and it's good for 3 dimes at Penny, and they're 10 plus 01, which is on the plus 10, they're minus $1.15. This game was 10 in a lot of places earlier in the week. If anything, I would respect the 9 at Chris and the 9.5, and maybe if I was going to bet anything, I would take a little plus 10 minus 15 with BYU. It's not a great bet because Paradise Wagers minus 9.5, minus 15. Bet Wars minus 9.5, minus 12. So there's still, this game hasn't completely come down, but there are no 10s out there. And plus 10, minus 15 is where I would go if I was going to do something with that game. The next game I want to take a look at is SMU and TCU game 383. That one's good for, we have a 7 at both Chris and at Sports 411. Pinnacle is 6.5 minus $1.14. Pinnacle's only taken 3 dimes on this game, and it's good for 20,000 at Chris and Circa again. And there are minus 7 evens. And some 6.5 minus 12 at Bet War. And most of the rest of the market is 7. If I did anything with this game, I would lean a little bit towards the 7 even, or if I could get to 6.5 flat, maybe I might take a taste to 6.5 minus 12. Only one, because the Pinnacle line, they're only good for 3 dimes, so it's not a big. They're not really holding too strong there like Circa and Sports 411, but also because I've talked to some people and there's some sharp money to that side, so I would lean to the 6.5 side there, especially if you could get flat minus $1.10 somewhere. And the last game I was going to talk about was Sam Houston State and Houston. And that game is good for 20,000 at 411. It's only good for 10,000 at Circa, and at Pinnacle it's good for 3,000. And Pinnacle is Chris, which is taking the biggest bet, is at 11, and Pinnacle at plus 12.5 is minus $1.12. Now 12.5, 12, 11.5, not your most key number. There is a 12.5 out there at Bet STS. If you bet with them, there is a 12.5 at Bet War. But there were a lot of 12.5s on this game earlier, and it came down. And Chris holding at 11. If ideally, I'd like to get to 13 somehow, but if I were going to do anything, I might take a small taste on the plus 12.5. Another reason too, it's never hurts taking that many points when the total is that low, and there's the total's 37.5, and that's down a little bit from 38 earlier. So that's basically what I would do. Not much. There's not that much out there to look at, but those are a few of the differences that I saw, and that's what I would do with those games. And actually, if on the there was one more. I'm sorry, 369 USC and Arizona State. That game is 34 at Chris, only good for 10 dimes. 34 at Circa, good for 20 dimes, and 35 at Pinnacle, and it's a plus 35 is at minus $1.13. And they're only taking 1,500 there. And I know Arizona State's been a kind of a disappointing team, and they were in a few games and then got blown out late. And USC is kind of one of those teams that runs up the score, but 35 points might be a lot, and plus 35 minus 13 when you got some solid 34 out there, and only being a small limit of 1,500 at Pinnacle, I would probably take a taste of that Arizona State and gamble with the plus 35 there.
Sounds good.
And that is what Fats would do this week with those games.
Okay, let me just bring a couple of things to your attention real quick. If you want to change your column colors, all you have to do is right-click on it here, and you can select Choose Color and make these any colors that you want them to be. The other thing is, if you're looking for a specific number that Fats was talking about, you can add the book Pinnacle Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, and Alt 4, and you can find the exact number at Pinnacle, and you can help you figure out exactly what the half points are costing you there. That's a couple things Spank Odds also helps you do. And as Fats was saying several times, you can hover over a total and it'll tell you how much the book is taking. That works for Pinnacle, Chris, and it also works for Circa. So those are some tips that you can use for Spank Odds. If you have any questions for Spank Odds at all, please send me a message, a DM at Spank Odds. If you have any questions about the show, or you want to get on the show, you have questions, you have comments, or any kind of concerns, go ahead and send it to me at Vegas Horse Pools. Of course, you can reach Fats on Twitter. He's at real_Fats. And don't forget to get your contest picks in. If you have any questions about your contest picks and you've signed up with VHP Proxy, please go ahead and send me a message on that also. Fats, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, that's it for me.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much for joining us, and you guys have a good night.